him! The problem with a game like War of Rights is getting random players to work together in appropriate close order while keeping it competitive. Let's have a couple premises at the start of this video, which I hope you agree with. Number one, a finished War of Rights will be better if linear warfare can work in public servers. Imagine a game where you go into a server and for your own success, not just for your own enjoyment, you may choose to work in close order with other friendlies. A game where the actual abilities of a unit can play out properly on a battlefield without the protective cloak of a closed server environment. Number two, fighting in a line is not always proper or historical based on the situation. Contrary to popular myth, officers in the American Civil War were not all uncreative morons, and the soldiers did not all have a death wish. Modern tactics with Civil War weaponry would not work well on a Civil War battlefield. In order to mass your firepower, you had to mass your men. The officers of the Civil War had the exact same means of communication on a black powder battlefield as Alexander the Great did thousands of years earlier. The most effective way of using men was in lines. But only a real fool did not deploy skirmishers on both the offense and the defense. I know this was coming as a shock to some of you, but skirmishing was intense and fierce in the Civil War. Those pretty diagrams of battle lines in the Civil War don't tell you about the savage fighting on the skirmish line, and that nearly always preceded the main fight. It is almost impossible to read intimate details of great battles without references to the skirmishers coming in or going out. So stop deducing the fighting in the American Civil War to just shoulder to shoulder or bust. You don't know what you're talking about. It should always be possible in War of Rights to fight alone, to move alone, to fight Indian style, to attempt whatever crazy shit you can imagine. These should, in fact, be some of the best experiences you have while playing War of Rights. It should just be really hard, but not impossible. The team morale system, which is the current system, and which is supposed to incentivize players to work in lines, that system seeks to punish the behavior of lone wolves by making their deaths more punitive to the team. In fact, most rounds come to an end not based on any objective being captured or on one side getting driven off the field. It ends with the last kill that finally breaks the losing team's morale for good. It's hoped by some that the flag bearer spawn system will further incentivize people to shoulder up and cause people killed out of line to spawn in the rear. Standing in the way of this is one simple mathematical equation. Lines attract more firepower. In technical terms, you're a big f***ing target when you're in a line. A line is a big target. This doesn't require explaining. But what you might not take the time to think about is what's actually going on within a game round. If I'm in a line, what am I fighting? Hopefully another line. But what is my actual effect I'm having as a player on the success of my team? Let's examine. I'm in a line. So my death counts very little against my team. But if the enemy are in a line, so do theirs. The consequences of this line versus line fight are not very big. By the team morale system logic, I should prioritize targeting lone wolves because they will incur a whopping 5 times the loss for an enemy team. Even if they hit 4 of us before being killed, my team is still coming up ahead. But it hardly looks that way when the bodies start piling up around me. And the morale loss may have been worth it to the enemy team to buy time for repositioning or maneuvering. Players alone or in small groups can relatively easily avoid the main enemy lines as they move around. You end up with far more consequential combat going on completely away from what the lines are doing, either on purpose or perhaps entirely by accident. Everyone knows that people getting killed out of line can be the difference between winning and losing. In some cases, it's really obvious, and in others, it's not so obvious. As a player of any pedigree, it's natural instinct to part from a line temporarily for a better position, to dress a line poorly, or to avoid them altogether because I get a lot less firepower coming my way when I'm out of line. Besides, if I'm playing conservatively and winning the fight out of line against other out of line players, my effect is far greater than if I had remained in line, even if I do have to walk from spawn when I'm killed. I'm not dying nearly as much anyway. If the enemy line up like ducks at the fair, then all the better. Not every player who plays War of Rights will understand or care about the team morale system. Even if they do, as I just explained, when it comes to players fighting in lines against other lines, or players out of line fighting against other people out of line, the only thing that changes is the stakes are higher. The risks are higher of fighting out of line, but so are the rewards. Among gamers of the realism genre, there's a certain arrogance about us that always precedes the cruel realities of the general public. We think we're better than other players. I hear, this game isn't about that, go back to playing COD.
And there is the great trap, General.
If your idea of making your community work is simply to mandate that it works to each player who comes, you're in for a nasty surprise. It isn't going to work. You are the general public. You'll never even follow your own rules any more than you have to in order to get by. And you'll probably be totally oblivious to that fact. A gentleman's agreement does not hold two opposing teams to a standard of conduct. The most dedicated players you're going to have are already here. If War of Rights is going to survive, then it needs fresh players. I want to eviscerate the term line battle from ever infecting this community with its yoke as it develops further. What you're really saying when you want to host a line battle is, we know this game doesn't work the way it's supposed to, so we're going to orchestrate an event to make it feel like it's supposed to. Everyone has to follow the rules. For a game to thrive, it has to be competitive. If your entire idea of the future of War of Rights is line battles, that is extremely narrow-visioned and detrimental to the development. Events where teams are restricted in what they can and can't do to get a competitive advantage are inherently impossible to police, have a lack of innovation for fear of breaking the rules or appearing to break the rules to a skeptical enemy team, and these events lack cooperation because people always want to push the rules. Players will seldom perform more than the minimum to appear they are following the rules. Since the events are the only place players can get the experience they want, or anything close to it, these events are going to be the only place they will go. Public servers will rot on all of their occasions. A new player's induction into the game will be a scene of chaos and trolling. Organizations will never come out, not even to police their own servers, except to recruit and play line battles. Literally, I've seen this before. When you have a specific experience in mind and the game mechanics don't naturally provide anything resembling it, then you have to go into closed server events. The line battle culture stands in complete 180-degree opposition to a thriving and enjoyable War of Rights community. It's far better for the game and its design if it drives the experience in the direction everyone wants to go anyway.
Rest of the